This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father, Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Hardcore college basketball next half an hour. Greg Hoops Peterson joins the program now. Follow him on X at @GUnit_81. He is the host of the Coast to Coast Hoops podcast right here on VSiN that you get throughout the entire college basketball season. Here's what we're going to do. In the next segment, we're going to get to all of the marquee games that we have on the schedule for tomorrow, and my God, there are plenty of them. In this segment, we will get to Michigan, Illinois. We'll get to Miami tonight, trying to remain undefeated. First of all, Hoops, thanks for the time as always. I want to begin with this. It's the game that I teased before the break because you made, in this Brown-Columbia game, your numbers are about 6.5 points off of where the betting market is. Tell us what your number is here overall and who you like tonight.
Yep, right now you're finding Columbia as about a 5.5 to a 6-point favorite, and I felt like this number should have been closer to 11.5. Brown has just not been able to generate any offense whatsoever. They're bottom 35 team in the country in terms of points per possession. Landon Lewis is their lone double-figure scorer. And this is a Columbia team that they're a really good three-point shooting team. They're a top 45 team in the country in terms of their three-point shooting percentage, and they do a great job on the boards. They have a massive advantage down low. Columbia, top 20 team in terms of rebound percentage. Brown outside the top 235. And with this Brown team, they just haven't been able to guard the three-point line away from them. Teams that shoot over 34% from three-point range on the road against them. For Columbia, they had an injury or two towards the beginning part of the season. They really did a nice job of working through that with Blair Thompson being a very versatile piece for Columbia. I just have really liked what I've seen out of this Columbia team all season long. They played well at home. They played well on the road. And for this Brown team, I just don't think that they're going to be able to score enough points to be able to hold within single digits. So I made Columbia the 11.5 point favorite, very willing to lay the 5.5 to 6 that we're seeing right now.
Okay. Another Ivy League game tonight that we have. This is at 6 o'clock Eastern. So watch out there. Yale takes on Cornell. Who do you like in this matchup?
Now, this is a big-time revenge angle here for Cornell. They got blown out by 25-plus points last time they played against Yale. Certainly gave up a ton of points. Yale, I believe, got well past 100 in that game. And right now we're seeing a total of 164.5, 165.5. I do like the over, and I do like the points here with Cornell. You've got a Yale bunch as allowing teams to shoot over 35% from three-point range away from home, and that's exactly what Cornell is looking to do. Top 25 team in the country in terms of percentage of their shots that come from three-point range. Top 25 team in terms of their own three-point shooting percentage. Now, the Cornell defense leaves a lot to be desired. They're outside the top 340 in terms of points allowed on a per-possession basis. And this Yale team, they shoot 41% from three-point range. So very interesting that we see this total go from like a 165, 165.5 down to a 164. Recognize that Yale is a slower tempo team outside the top 275 in terms of total possessions per game. But we saw with our own two eyes first time around, both of these teams were very willing to run. I think that you get something similar here. Just was an outlier of a shooting performance to the bad for Cornell, to the good for Yale. I think that irons out in this game. So we'll take the 4 with Cornell, and I like that over.
You've mentioned this team a couple times on our program about one of the slowest teams in the country, Metro Atlantic, Merrimack, 16-2 in league play. The total was 131. You make it 125.5. What do you think, Canisius and Merrimack tonight?
Yep, I am certainly in on this under because not only is Merrimack slow, they're a bottom 10 team in the country in terms of total possessions per game. Canisius is a bottom 30 team in the country in terms of total possessions per game. So you're not going to get a lot of scoring opportunities, and Canisius is just not putting the ball in the basket. Canisius is well outside the top 300 in terms of points per possession. They do not a great job in terms of taking care of the ball outside the top 275 in terms of turnovers on a per possession basis. And if you've followed this Merrimack team going all the way back to their Division two days under Coach Joe Gallo, they do a tremendous job of generating turnovers, back in the top 45 in terms of turnovers generated on a per possession basis, and you just don't get clean looks against them. Merrimack, top 45 team in terms of opponents' 2-point shooting percentage, top 10 team in opponents' 3-point shooting percentage. Now, Merrimack, they leave something to be desired with their offense as well, outside the top 250 in terms of points scored on a per possession basis, because if they miss their first shot and they shoot less than 32% from three, they don't grab second and third chances, actually a bottom 10 team in the country in terms of rebound percentage. So when this line got to double figures, I was willing to take the points. With Canisius has come down a little bit ever since then, but I feel like this total is too high for two very slow teams. I like this under.
Okay.
Do you think Mitch, do you think Miami of Ohio goes undefeated regular season? And also, I love what you said with Matt Humans the other day. What are you telling mid-majors? What's the point of a regular season if they would only lose 1 or 2 games and not get an at-large?
Absolutely. I think that the committee would be completely lambasted if they leave Miami of Ohio out of the NCAA tournament, because I do believe that they're going to go undefeated. A lot of people have started that game against the Ohio Bobcats. That's an interstate rivalry. It's an Ohio team that in the past we've seen them pull off some nice triumphs. Go back a few years ago, they knocked out Virginia in the NCAA tournament. Heck, I still remember many years ago, back in the day, when they very nearly made the Elite Eight against North Carolina. Not the same Ohio Bobcats team this year. They're really not shooting the ball from three. They're not doing a great job on defense. I think Miami of Ohio is going to be able to roll in this game. And what I love about Miami of Ohio is you can say what you will about the strength of schedule and everything like that. Do you know how much pressure is on these guys?
Yeah.
Do you know how strange it is when it's like, oh, we're now talking about Miami of Ohio on national networks and everything like that. And time again, they go out there and they get the job done. They're led by a coach, Travis Steele, that is used to the spotlight because he was a former coach over at Xavier. I felt like maybe he got that job a little bit too soon. He wasn't quite ready for it. Now he's done a really good job of being able to turn the corner as a coach. And I'm willing to lay the 11 here with Miami of Ohio. They're actually tied for the best against the spread record in all of college basketball. Sam Houston State matches them at right around about 19/20-6 against the spread. And for Miami of Ohio, not only are they a really good offense that shoots in the top 25 from 3-point range away from them, they're also pretty solid in terms of generating turnovers. And even though they don't grab a lot of second and third chances for themselves on the offensive glass, they do a nice job in terms of not allowing second and third chances for their opponents. So I think that Miami of Ohio keeps it going. I think they get that undefeated regular season, and I'm willing to lay it tonight.
All right. Akron only lost 1 league game. That was Miami of Ohio. They're at Kent State. I think we agree on this. They beat them by 17 in the first meeting. They're laying 3.5 at Kent State. You make it 6.5. What do you think of the Zips?
I absolutely love this Akron team. They're a top 5 team in the country in terms of points scored on a per possession basis. And that's also why I like this total over. Now, it's gone up from the overnight number. Now you're seeing this more around 166.5, 167. But I still think that you've got some value because Kent State is a much better 3-point shooting team at home rather than away from home. Away from home, they shoot less than 30% from 3-point range. They shoot over 38% at home. So I think that that's going to carry you for the total. But here's the big X factor in this game. Kent State is not taking care of the ball. They are outside the top 300 in terms of turnovers on a per possession basis. And I go back to when they made the NCAA tournament 3 years ago. They were a team that would always win the turnover battle. They're now losing it this season. And Akron has been a sneaky okay team in the top 100 in terms of turnovers generated on a per possession basis on defense. They'll leave something to be desired with their 3-point shooting defense. But I mentioned how good Kent State is with their 3-point shooting offense at home. They're also really bad with their 3-point shooting defense at home. Teams are shooting over 37% from 3-point range at home against them. With Tavari Johnson giving you 20-plus points per game. Akron just littered with guys who are able to bomb it from 3-point range. I think in a high-scoring expose, Akron gets it done. Felt like they should have been a 6 to 6.5-point favorite. So willing to lay with Akron, and I'm on that over as well.
Very good. Greg Peterson, our guest. He's on the Progressive Guestline, host of the Coast to Coast Hoops podcast here on VSiN. Follow him on X at @GUnit_81. One more game, lower leagues here. Tell us why you like Coastal Carolina. They're decent-sized dogs tonight in their matchup against James Madison. And is it worth maybe putting a little bit on them to win the game outright?
With this Coastal Carolina team, I think that they hold in there. Personally, I wasn't willing to take a shot on the money line, but with this being a 6-point spread, I felt like this line should have been 2. you have a little bit of trepidation with this being a true road game for Coastal Carolina, but neither team generates turnovers. Both of these teams are in the bottom 25 in the country in terms of turnovers generated on a per possession basis, so very similar there. But if you dive in a little bit deeper, you'll find that Coastal Carolina is a far better interior defense. They're a top 15 team in terms of opponents' 2-point shooting percentage. James Madison overall 216th in the country in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis, while Coastal Carolina is 88th. Now, Coastal Carolina not generating for themselves a lot of second and third chances on the offensive glass. That's a big reason why I just can't take this outright on the money line. But for James Madison, they're very reliant upon their three-point shooting. Coastal Carolina has been a top 125 team in terms of opponents' three-point shooting percentage as well. So I think that you're going to get a lot of clean possessions in this game. We're seeing that total overnight more around 140. I do like the over. And for Coastal Carolina in a game where both teams are very similar in the way that they don't generate turnovers, they being the better team in terms of taking care of the ball, took the points with the shade of clears.
I love it. By the way, a lot of games here from Greg, obviously. If you missed any of this, just tuning in right now, the full write-up is available today and every day throughout the college basketball season, Paulie, at vsin.com. And I know we have the Hoops Mania special going on as well.
Get it through May 1st, just $29.99. Best stretch of the year, right around the corner. Conference tournament start next week. Every best bet, every host, every guest, real-time DK and Circa betting splits, AI-powered prop tools, March Mania betting guide, team profiles from every team, key trends for each round, bracket picks, strategies, and best bets. If you're betting the tournament, this is a must. $29.99 through May 1st. vsin.com/subscribe. Get it now.
Here's an example of another game that you can get on the website with his breakdowns. Marshall is one of the best teams in league play to the over. 12-4-1 so far on the year, going over by more than 6 points per game. Greg, it's a super high total, as Marshall games always are. Greg writes about the total and tells you that a play that he likes on that game tonight. Go and read it today on the website, vsin.com. We will get to his thoughts on Michigan, Illinois, a doozy of a game coming up tonight. Also, the other marquee games this weekend, Kansas, Arizona, Virginia, Duke, the Zags at St. Mary's, and many more. Coming up on Follow the Money, it's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You're here because you want an edge. That's what separates listeners from winners. But let's be real, mindset alone doesn't get bets home. Pros win because they've got the tools, the data, and the discipline. And now so can you. VSiN Pro gives you access to the same real-time insights the sharps use. No secrets, no fluff, just actionable info that moves markets. Tap the link and see why serious bettors are turning knowledge into profit with VSiN Pro.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father, Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We continue talking college basketball. Greg Hoops Peterson, our guest on the Progressive Guest Line, host of the Coast to Coast Hoops podcast, right here on VSiN. Okay, let's get into the big boy tonight, the marquee game on this Friday evening in the Big Ten. And during the commercial break, this is interesting, DraftKings was testing the betting waters out there as they moved Michigan to -2.5. The juice moved a little bit, and before we came back from the break, back down to 1.5, like pretty much every other book. What do you make of this game tonight? KenPom has it the highest graded game of the entire year.
I think that this is going to be a tremendous game, no doubt. I don't know if it's quite going to be Michigan versus Duke last week or Arizona versus Houston, but I am certainly a whale of a game, and I do like Michigan. They had a little bit of a lackluster performance against Minnesota, and obviously they take that loss against Duke last week, but I made this line 3, so I'm willing to lay the 1.5 with Michigan, mainly because with Illinois, the one issue that I have with this team, they don't generate turnovers. There are 365 Division I teams, and they're 365th in terms of turnovers generated on a per possession basis, and that's a one way that I find that you can really bother this Michigan team. When you get in their grill, when you generate some turnovers, that's really been the lone issue that I've seen with Dusty May's team ever since he's gotten to Michigan. When they get a little bit sloppy with the ball, that takes them a bit out of sorts. Illinois really doesn't do so. And if you're going to have a battle of low post players with guys like David Morosic and company for Illinois going up against the Axel Lendeborg, Ade Mera, I just feel like the Michigan big men are a little bit better than that of Illinois. Now, Illinois, obviously a very efficient team because even though they don't generate turnovers, they take great care of the ball themselves. They don't put you on the free throw line. But in the end, I do think that Michigan has a little bit more down low. And the Michigan three-point shooting, as the season has went along, it's been getting progressively better and better with the ancillary guys like Nobari Burnett stepping up. So I made Michigan a 3-point favorite here, willing to lay it in. That total of 159, I like to the under. This opened up more around 157, 157.5. I wanted to see how this moved in the AM, moved up. So I took a shot on the under, mainly because Illinois is a team that has been much slower tempo this year than in the past.
Some great games on Saturday. How about Arizona 8.5 against Kansas?
Yep, and this is obviously a revenge spot from what we saw a few weeks ago where the big Monday streak, it kept up for Kansas, which is just absolutely insane in and of itself. And I certainly do think that Arizona is going to be able to get revenge here. I set my number at 8. 8.5 does become my buy point on Kansas. I've yet to bet this personally myself, but what I'm really looking at is that total. This is a total right now of a 146.5, 147 that I was seeing. I felt like the total should have been closer to 152, 152.5. Keep in mind, the first time these two teams played, both teams got past 80 points in this game, and that was without Darren Peterson out there on the floor. Peterson has played 30-plus minutes in each of the last two games, and he's a guy that typically helps out the Kansas offense. The defense, it does take a little bit of a step back, and it's an Arizona team that plays very up-tempo, top 45 team in terms of total possessions per game. Now, it does need to be recognized that Kansas has been rock solid on defense. They're a team that has been playing a little bit more mid-tempo this season, but they're also a team that's not going to put you under duress. They're outside the top 330 in terms of turnovers generated on a per-possession basis, lots of clean possessions, and if you think that this is going to be a relatively close game, you get those late fouls as well. So on the 8.5, I'm right now looking at Kansas, going to see where that moves here in the next few hours, but I really like that total over.
Okay. How about in the ACC early game? Well, noon Eastern, 9 o'clock out here on the West Coast tomorrow. Duke's laying 9.5. That total also 137.5. Virginia has played in a ton of high-scoring games this year, and Duke, I know it was Notre Dame, they scored 100 against them, and that game went flying over the total this week.
Yep, and Virginia games have been all over the place. Whatever you see in the first half of a Virginia game, bet the absolute opposite in the second half. Like, if you saw the NC State game a few days ago, NC State fails to get to 20 points in the first half. You get 100 points out of those two teams in the second half. I personally had the under in that game. I got there by the hook, even though you had less than 55 points in the first half. So that's something that I've been finding. And I actually did make my total 137.5. So I'm in wait mode there. But this is a game that is going to be making my write-ups. And I like the points with Virginia. I think out of those teams that are maybe outside the top 10 right now, Virginia has a chance to be able to make that Elite Eight Final Four run because they're so strong down low. Thaddeus DeRidder gives you 15.6 rebounds. You've got a pair of guys in Ogana Onyesu along with Jonah Grunlow that combine for over 4.5 blocks per game. They're one of the few teams in the country that can match up with physicality and the overall strength that you've got for Duke down low. Duke has also been a really good three-point shooting defense. They're also a relatively pedestrian three-point shooting offense, though, as well. So I think that Virginia's going to be able to hold in there. Right now, seeing 9.5. I even saw a few 10.5s out there. I'm going to be taking the points with Virginia.
Will Patino get St. John's to respond after the humiliating loss to UConn? They're 5.5 against Villanova.
I don't think that they're going to go 0 of 24 from the field for a stretch in this game. That's my safe assumption, but I am going to be willing to lay it. I did set them as a 7.5 point favorite. Now, Villanova, it's actually been a really nice year for this for Kevin Willard. A lot of people were concerned that he didn't bring over really any of his guys from Maryland. I mean, he's been able to do a nice job in terms of mixing and matching. Here's the issue that you've got for Villanova, though. You really only have one guy that gives you 5+ rebounds per game in Duke Brandon. Outside of that, you don't have as many bigs. And I think that just being able to have Zuby Ejiofor along with Dylan Mitchell, being able to do a nice job down low, that's going to be able to win the day for St. John's. And St. John's has been a far better offensive team when they bet at home rather than away from home, and they allow far fewer second chances when they're at home rather than away from home as well. They've got some pretty demonstrative splits there for the St. John's team. It feels like they're much more willing to go down low when they're playing either at Carnesecca or at MSG. So I do think that they're going to try to win this game from within. I do think that Pitino, who's one of the best coaches in all of college basketball, he gets his team to respond here. So I'd be willing to lay the 5.5 right now as I made my line St. John's 7.5.
Look at this Florida number now. I know they've been taking teams out in a body bag. Their power rating is pretty much right there with the big three now as well with how well they're playing. It was 9.5 last night in the overnight. Now they're laying 10.5 against a very talented and feisty Arkansas team. And the total is 167 here and a half, Greg.
And Arkansas has been covering a lot of numbers this year as well. They're covering right around about 2/3 of their games. Now, Arkansas is going to be up against it down low. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This Florida team, they lead the country in terms of rebound percentage. I just still need to see a little bit more from the backcourt to lay this big of a number against an Arkansas team that they're going to have the advantage in the backcourt. Like Darius Acuff, Blake Thomas, these are two of the best freshmen in all of college basketball. Know that Acuff has been a little bit banged up. You wouldn't know it by watching his games. He's been putting up 20 plus on the regular. And for this Florida team, they do have a little bit of issues taking care of the ball, and Arkansas makes the most out of their possessions. They're a top 10 team in the country in terms of fewest turnovers on a per possession basis. They shoot it well from 3-point range. And I do think that Trevon Brazile is the X factor because this Arkansas team is not going to be able to stand up down low. They're going to lose the battle on the glass, but Brazile is the guy that stands 6'9", 6'10". He shoots in the high 30s from 3-point range, gives his team some versatility. I think that that's enough for them to remain lively. Like I set my line as Arkansas as a 7-point underdog. Seeing this at 9.5 to 10.5, I'm going to be willing to take those points with Arkansas.
All right. Late night tomorrow night, the Zags 1.5 at St. Mary's. Great rivalry here. And your early thoughts on that game, Greg?
Yep, I'm going to be waiting to see how this moves overnight, but I would be willing to lay Gonzaga at -1.5. I set my number at 2.5 for Gonzaga. They know how big this game is because they lost that game to Portland. And I think that that's one of the worst things that could have happened if you're Santa Clara or St. Mary's, because now Gonzaga has no wiggle room whatsoever to lose any more games. I think that they're going to be very angry for this game. Now, for Gonzaga, they really need to find who's going to be that number 2 guy for Graham Ike. Ever since he's come back from injury, he's had to do it all because Braden Huff has been dealing with an injury. Who knows when he's going to be back? I think that they're going to try to get him back for the WCC tournament, but that's a big giant wait and see, and that's a big question mark. Is that going to be Tyon Grant Foster? Is that going to be Mario Saint-Sapri? That's a big giant question mark for Gonzaga, but with Gonzaga, this is sort of the reverse of what we've seen from them in the past. They're not a great three-point shooting team, but they've been really good down low. They're generating quite a few turnovers, and they do a nice job on the glass as well. So I did set Gonzaga as 2.5-point favorite. I'm willing to lay that initial 1.5.
Greg, do you think Texas Tech without Toppin can hang at Iowa State? That number also has moved. The Cyclones were 8.5. Now they're 9.5 tomorrow.
I did set my number at 8.5. I agreed with the opener. Now that we're getting to 9+, I do think that they can hang in there because for Iowa State, it's a better team on the glass than they've been in the past, but they're not some sort of a supreme team. And I've actually liked what I've seen out of Texas Tech in the first 2 games without them. They've been able to shoot it really well from 3. Now, very soft landing spot in that first game against Kansas State. That certainly helps out quite a bit, but for Texas Tech, they've got Luke Bumboy. Hopefully I got that name correct. He's been able to do a nice job down low. He was a pretty highly touted guy that was sort of lost in the shadow of JT Toppin. He's not a great offensive player, but he's a pretty solid defensive player. I think that that's going to do just enough for them to hold in there against Iowa State. So now that we're going to 9+, that is my buy point on Texas Tech.
Greg, you're the man. Nobody's better at knowledgeable college basketball insight than you. Thanks so much for the time. Best of luck tonight and this weekend. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Always great to be on with you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Make sure you follow Greg on X. He's at gunit_81, and he is the host of the Coast to Coast Hoops podcast right here on VSiN. And his write-ups every single day on the website throughout the college basketball season are short, succinct, to the point. He gives you the nuggets that you need to know, and he has got a ton of games pretty much every single day of the year. I bid on Arkansas 50-1.
There you go. Good job.
Circa's down to 30-1 on them.
All right.
10.5 tomorrow? I know Florida's killing teams, but my God.
Yeah, Lenardi upgraded him. He's got him a 2 seed now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Illinois wins tonight, by the way. They're going to be in the 1 seed conversation, no doubt. NBA card coming up. The Spurs became the first team in NBA history to accomplish this over a full month. Details next.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Hardcore hoops here on a Friday. We're live in Vegas. Circa Resort and Casino is the spot. More of that now as we go out to the Progressive guest line. Dalen Cuff, college basketball, Turner Sports, joins the program. Dalen, it's been a minute. Thanks for the time as always, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just being dad of the year, guys, while my son watches Mickey Mouse. We're talking betting. I love it. Let's do it.
That's called being resourceful right there.
Got to get it done.
I don't disagree with what you're saying about Florida. You think if you haven't bought stock in this team already to win the whole thing, you still have time to do it, yeah?
I think that number's just going to keep coming down, guys. I've said it the last couple of weeks. I've come on with you or colleagues in different shows. It's been about since they were 22 or so to 1 about 3 weeks ago. But they're coming, man. And the other team I saw, too, that you still get value, I think it's going to keep coming down, is going to be Kansas, but not as precipitously because there's still questions around DP and if he's going to play. But I still think that team is capable of getting to a Final Four. But Florida's got the best front line. That same front line, that same quartet of guys won a championship last year with the same coaching, with obviously Colton and the majority of his staff still there. You've got the best rebounding team on both sides of the ball, absolutely relentless. Defensively, elite team. And they're not, like early in the year when we saw them play such a tough schedule, those guards were trying to do too much. Like Xavier Lee and Boogie Flam thought they had to be the dudes. And it was constantly with them and taking tough shots and playing outside in. Now I think they're playing more inside out. And Thomas Houck is showing he is the NBA player on that team. He is the most impactful offensive player, most toughest guy, I think, to guard. But Boogie will have his moments. And then the other guards are stepping in. Klobuchar has been really good at defense. He's making threes. Isaiah Brown, the freshman, he's going to be a hell of a player, guys. And he's making shots. And this team's part of their problem was they were shooting such a low percentage. But in league play now, they're getting to 31, 32%. I mean, if they're getting to 33 or 34 and they get 40% of their misses, I just think they have all the pieces. And that number is just going to, I think it's going to keep coming down as they move to the rest of the SEC season.
Who has the best A game in the entire country then? Is it them?
I think the best, who's best is their best. It's them and Michigan is my question right now. The problem with Michigan is I think their variance is too great. We've seen them. I mean, at times they know they can play with their food a bit. You saw it in Minnesota after losing to Duke. I thought, hey, they're going to come out and they're going to put one on Minnesota. Minnesota was in it for 30 minutes. They were in the game for 30 minutes, and then they said, okay, we're done here. We're going to step it up. I think they have shown a greater variance. Arizona has the highest floor, I feel like, but Florida's encroaching on that. I think their consistency is there. So if you're giving me, and I know what Duke just did to Michigan, I get it. I do know Daimara had foul trouble in that game. Patrick Gumba did not. If Gumba gets in foul trouble, that is a different team. And we've seen it, whether it was when he fouled out late in North Carolina game, the last 5 minutes to play without him, they lose that game. And shocking. I mean, I still can't believe they lost that game, guys. So you see how important he is there, whether it's Clemson. You know, the first half of that game, he has 2 fouls the first few minutes. It's a game. He plays the second half, they blow him right out. Like, he's critical to both paints, how they play around the rim, their lob threat, their blocking, and the ability to defend the rim. We know how important Cameron Boozer is for everything they do, but with Gumba not on the floor, that's different. I think when you take one piece away in a one-and-done scenario, you can be in a really risky proposition. I think Florida has so much depth. I think Michigan has so much depth. So it's those two teams, I think, their best is the best.
Do you think Illinois wins tonight?
I do. The only issue it's a big issue, is, you know, Illinois, they shoot threes and they're going to take a lot of threes. The thing with Michigan is they can switch you 1 through 5. And then the question is, can you take advantage of some of those mismatches when they do that? Because you're not going to have much pick and pop stuff. Now, Dusty will mix up some coverages, but I can see them just saying, forget it. We'll just switch all this stuff and make you guys shoot over contested shots. Or if you're going to get in the lane, maybe they'll try to make you finish over him at the rim. So I have confidence at home Illinois will play a really good brand of basketball. They did not play their best outing last game out. Late game was a bit of a travesty. I think this is a big moment for them. It's kind of like look yourself in the mirror. Like, what are we really capable of? Can we do this? Because I think Illinois is a Final Four team. I don't think they can win the title. Not one game changes that, but if they can beat Michigan at home, I think that'll show me a little something. Kylan Boswell being fully back is important for them defensively. That really helps their solidity defensively. They've got great size to battle with Michigan. I've given the edge to them being at home. And Michigan has played really well on the road. Sometimes you do regress to the mean. They played very well on the road in these big games. I think this time I think Illinois will be the better team tonight in a very tight one. If you're giving me a point, before it was 2.5, it's down to 1.5. I still think they win the game, but if you want to be a little scared, take your 1.5. But I think they win the game. Give me the money line.
What happens with Miami of Ohio?
This is the challenge, guys, because their numbers are getting better. They're still not good. I mean, their net is 48. Their other metrics like wins above bubble and strength of record are further up the ledger, if you will. I think they have to, if they lose just one game, and if it's in the league tournament, I think they're fine. I think they're going in. If they lose the next, two regular season games, and then you lose in the league tournament, that analog is really like that Indiana State team from 2 years ago. When Josh Schertz's crew was 29-2, they had a 29 in the net. They had some quad one wins. This team doesn't have a quad one win. They played one quad two game. Like, this is the whole thing is in there. They had no quad one games. They have one quad two game, nothing else. So it's like, who have they played? Who have they beat? And I have some sympathy for Coach Steele that, hey man, it's hard. I know it's hard as a mid-major to schedule, but if you had all these guys coming back, their whole core is of coming back. They had a bunch of dudes that are 4-year guys, which is rare. So this is our year. You got to go out and you got to go play some guarantee games. For the audience doesn't know, that means, the high majors pay you 6 figures to come here and probably take a butt whooping, but you get an opportunity and you don't always lose those games. And if you're really good, the good mid-major, you win those games, or even if you compete, it is a data point by which, you're not moral victories, but it might actually help your numbers. That if you lose by 2 or 3 to a good high major, there's something for the committee to look at. Because right now, if they're looking at it and that team has 2 losses, that's a problem. If it's 1 loss in the conference tournament, I think they're fine. But you're flirting around right now.
Interesting. Okay. I like your play here with Yale. This game comes up in less than an hour. They're laying 4.5 against Cornell, and they beat them by 34 in the first meeting and dropped 102 on them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to just be like it's going to be a repeat of the same thing. Cornell's playing for their Ivy tournament life. You got to finish in the top 4 in the league. It's near and dear in my heart. I do love the fact that we still do that. We do that because it does make the regular season still matter. Remember, our regular season champion used to represent our conference every time up until 2017. That said, I do believe Yale is fully healthy now. It's important because Matt Townsend, who will be the player of the year in the league, was going through some injury issues. So I believe they will be at full health tonight. I just don't see how Cornell guards them. The size that Yale has, and I've watched them live now 3 times, and in that league, there's nobody like them. They have multiple, high-level athletes. Alaton, this kid, 6'10", is a skywalker. Like, he is a high major athlete playing at Yale. They have physicality they have positional size at every position that really makes it hard to score on them, too. Cornell's going to try to make the pace fast. They're going to press you. They're going to try to speed you up. They're going to try to muck it up. I just don't think they can score enough, and then they're going to give up a lot of easy baskets. They'll give up an easy one to get going the other way. It's hard to do that against Yale because it's just they're very sound defensively, and again, the positional size I think could be an issue. So I don't think it's going to be a 34-point beating like it was in New Haven, but I feel really good about Yale winning this thing by 8, 9, 10 points and moving on. Okay, very good. Dalen, what are your thoughts on Dayton taking money tonight on the road against George Washington? They were catching 3.5, now down to 2.5 here. They're off of, you want to talk about the game of the year. They blew out St. Louis from the jump in their last game this week. This is why I don't love when I'm going against the money. No, none of us do. But this is a Dayton team that has been wildly inconsistent. Now they have gotten better. They've won 5 of 6, and that St. Louis game is their best performance. That said, when they've been away from home, they have been erratic, to say the least. They rely on turning teams over, and they want to get up in you. And Amel Latong was huge in that game against St. Louis. They had no answer for the 7-foot Frenchman. He was really good in that game. I think Rafael Castro is going to outplay him in this game. And I like GW at home in a situation where I think Dayton is feeling themselves a bit. And GW is a team that I thought would have an outside chance, guys, at winning this league tournament, not winning the league outright and not getting it out large, but still putting things together. Chris Caputo's team, they space the floor really well. Castro's their one big on the interior. They can stretch out. They'll take threes. They play fast. They got a number of guys that can make buckets. And I feel like I'd like to see their response in this game. Now that Castro is back and they're all fully healthy as well. Mm-hmm. They had their own injury issues. They're all full healthy. I really like GW at home in this spot. I don't love coming against the number there or the number coming the other way, but I really think Dayton is a bit overpriced here, and the public's on them too, and I understand that. But I was coming off the St. Louis game, but I've seen their variance be too great through the course of the year to think that I really believe that this team is on a full upswing. I think they're playing better, but I think we're going to see a team that we may have seen on the road more typically than they had been the last couple of weeks. Yeah, let me know that it's a very busy schedule for you, obviously, throughout the entire college basketball season, especially with March around the corner. But thank you for the time. We appreciate that. Enjoy the games tonight and this weekend, and best of luck, okay? Anytime, boys. Be well. Good to talk to you. Follow him on X at Dalen Cuff. He was on the Progressive Guest Line, Turner Sports in the field of 68. I agree with his answer. If you're Miami of Ohio, don't make it interesting. Go 31-0 in the regular season. The Indiana State team, though, was 28-6, but the committee blew that. They did. The country would have fell in love with Avia, and that team was 17-3 in conference play, and then they got snubbed
and then they went to the finals of the NIT, lost by 2 to Seton Hall. They were 28-6. Had some good wins and went 17-3 in conference. Lost to Drake in a close one in a conference championship, and they didn't put them in. That was stupid.
Right. And I think it was like 2 games later. Didn't the team they put in, or 2 teams they put in ahead of them,
embarrass themselves
in the tournament?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they just had a great showing in the NIT.
Well, they could score. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. They were.
Thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And they blew that game against Drake, by the way, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Don't be afraid to jump in on the angle. We'll explain that coming up. Another winner last night, Real or Fugazi. Next here on a Friday edition of Follow the Money, live in Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father, Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Talk a little NBA tonight on the betting card. Cavaliers and Pistons tipping off in about 30 minutes. After that, you get Nets, Celtics, and a couple more a little bit later on tonight. Tom Byrne joins the program now, frequent host and guest here on VSiN, also Mad Dog Sports Radio on X at @1TomByrne. Hey, Tom, good afternoon. Thanks for the time. How are you?
I'm doing very well, fellas. Always enjoy being on with you guys. You know that.
What do you make of this Knicks-Bucks game tonight, coming up at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock out here on the West Coast? 5-1 last 6 ATS from Milwaukee, 8-2 last 10 against the spread. By the way, all 8 covers, outright wins as a dog. This is incredible, the run that they're on right now.
Yeah, nobody saw this coming. Give them credit, because everybody keeps talking about these teams rolling over, and many are purposely, right? The organization wants them to. Milwaukee's playing hard, and when nobody expects anything, they're coming up with win after win. And listen, New York's a good team, but they're not as great as I think New Yorkers were hoping they'd be. They lost a little toughness. And I think the problem is their best 2 offensive players are their 2 worst defensive players. So they're always susceptible defensively. We can say what we want about Tibbs. I know the minutes police were always out, but they lost a little bit of an edge. But anyway, I mean, listen, this is one game. I don't want to go too nuts. I do think if you could find 8.5, and you could still get it at Novig, I think that's probably not great value, but enough value to play it. Let's put it that way.
I can't believe the Knicks could get the 4 seed based on, number one, how strong the East is. And then if they're the 4, they're going to have to play the Pistons, and they have a Pistons problem. Don't you agree?
Yeah, they sure do. Now, sometimes we tend to overrate regular season matchups in terms of what they might mean in the postseason. I'll give you a perfect example, and I know you guys might disagree because a lot of people do. But everybody wants to make a huge deal. San Antonio and Oklahoma City, I don't really care. They could beat Oklahoma City every time in the regular season. They ain't beating them in the postseason. I think that's one where I don't think I look too much at that sort of thing. But I do think Detroit and New York, there's something there. This Detroit team is very tough, very physical. The only question with the Pistons is typically, and you guys know the history of the NBA, I'll just use the Pistons as an example. They won in 89 and 90 with the Bad Boys. Think about the heart-wrenching loss in 88, the Phantom Foul and Bill Laimbeer, right? 87, another instance, heartbreaking loss. Typically, you got to go through the trials and tribulations before you get over that mountaintop.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll be the case with this Detroit team. But I tell you, sign me up for Detroit and New York. That'll be a hell of a series.
So you have to grow into a champion, and that's another reason why you're off San Antonio?
Well, I just don't think San Antonio is quite there yet. I think another year of seasoning. I know we all love Wemby. He's the ultimate cheat code. He's 7'4". He doesn't even need to jump the dunk. It's kind of weird even watching him. It's so strange. But he is dominant, doesn't need the ball to dominate a game until late in the game when he could actually score it as well. So, and look, Stephon Castle, I think, is going to be key. His growth, and we all loved him out of UConn, but his growth moving forward, I think, will determine how far exactly this team could go. I just think Denver's still sitting there. They went 10-6 without Jokic. We know, obviously, Aaron Gordon gives them a higher ceiling. They know what it takes in the postseason. I'm in a little bit of a minority situation because everybody loves them. Everybody's already planning the parade. I still think we got to wait a little bit on the Spurs. To me, it's still Oklahoma City all day in the West. It's not quite the, Thunder Invitational like we like to discuss last year, JVT and such, but I still think it's Oklahoma City's league and certainly their conference.
Well, Tom, you're a Philly guy as well, so let's flip it to the East then. It seems like we've talked about, countless teams to possibly come out of this conference this year that it could be so wide open. The one team that is rarely, if ever mentioned, is Philadelphia. Should I be drug tested for asking you if you think the Sixers could come out of the East this year?
Nah, not drug tested, but I think they're still very mid. They're average.
Okay.
And Embiid, listen, when he plays, he's still really good, but their level's the greatness, right? At one point, there was nobody better in the league, with maybe the exception of Jokic, maybe. I can't say that anymore. You know what I mean? And number one, who knows if he's ever going to stay healthy, whether it's a broken face, he's dealt with that twice, literally. ACL, MCL, hand, whatever it might be. The odds of him being healthy aren't great. Now, they will get Paul George with about 10 games back. So because they have Embiid, George, Maxi's having a career year, I can never say never. But at the same time, I was thinking the same thing about a month ago. The more I looked at him, the more I think about it. I think it's a miracle.
Okay. What's the best thing you've heard about anti-tanking, an idea to curb the tanking?
It's not a sexy one, but the obvious thing you got to do right away is take away pick protections. I don't think people realize, generally speaking, how often teams tank because of pick protections. It happens all the friggin' time. You'll look and you'll say, well, why is this team tanking? I don't get it. They have no chance of the number one pick. Oh, they got to keep their pick because they lose it. It happens all the time. That's something that they've got to do without question. I don't know that there is one other obvious thing to do. Like, everybody talks about flattening the odds. They're pretty darn flat as it is now. The number one team gets 14.9% chance. And think about this, guys. If teams are in the middle, they're about 500. You and I both know. In other sports, they might have like a puncher's chance. Wild cards win Super Bowls. They have 0.0 chance. They got the Blutarski in the NBA. They got no chance. So are you in a better position to just tank and put yourself in a position to get the next Cooper Flag, or go to the playoffs, get your ass kicked in the first round, and get somebody, at 16, 17 that might be a decent role player for the next 8 years? They're going to choose get that pick. So now you'd be enticing teams to tank that are actually in a position for the playoff. That's actually much worse, right? Because what's the worst thing about tanking? It leads to load management. But we could all live if Keontae George doesn't play, okay? What kills us is when the stars don't play, from teams that'll be in the playoffs, that are in the hunt. So I don't know that you want to incentivize tanking at a higher level than it's already at.
Okay, I'm buying in. Tom Byrne, our guest on X, at one Tom Byrne, frequent host and guest here on VSiN, Mad Dog Sports Radio as well. He's on the Progressive Guest Line. So kind of on that note, how do you think this plays out with the Mavericks? They're in action tonight, and Cooper Flag, who's not playing again tonight, and the Rookie of the Year. Are they going to sit? Are they going to tell him and sit him down and say, "Hey, look, it'd be great to win Rookie of the Year. However, we need to lose as many games as possible, and your former Duke teammate can win it, and we're going to be fine with that."
Yeah, I'm fascinated by this. I think as long as Cooper Flag meets the requirements, he's going to get the votes from the voters. I think they already had it predetermined. They're giving it to Cooper Flag. I can't believe how good. I don't know how you guys feel. I can't believe how good Kotkaniemi was. I mean, this kid, he's much better than I thought. Maybe we should have seen this coming. Remember this time last year, Cooper Flag didn't play in the ACC tournament. Duke breezed right through anyway. And we all kind of didn't think too much of it. Oh, it's just the depth of Duke. No, it's probably a lot more about Knipple than we realized. For him to be a sniper already, and this Charlotte team, by the way, that's another interesting topic. I think that, listen, if Flag gets the requisite number of games, he wins it. But if he continues to sit, then yes, the door is wide open for Knipple. I should have looked at that. I haven't looked recently. You guys probably did. What are the latest in terms of the odds there?
Flag's down to like minus 175, and I think at last check, Knepel's like plus 115 now.
Oh, so the value might be going at that point. I was hoping to get over $2 at least, so that's not happening. Okay.
By the way, we got some news here tonight. Starting for the Cavaliers, Tyson, Mobley, Allen, Merrill, and Schroeder. So what does that tell you?
Oh, Harden's out.
There is no Harden in this game tonight.
So is there? The 5.5s are gone then. Detroit laying 5.5 is no longer going to be available to you. Because I was going to suggest, earlier I was looking at this game, Mitchell being out in Detroit. I know they played a gauntlet of late. Maybe you can go ahead and take a flyer in Detroit tonight. But, at this point, obviously, that number is going to be up to 8.5, 9.5 next time we look potentially.
Yeah, DK has 8.5 now.
There you go. So you can't, that's probably a bridge too far at this point. I had heard he was going to play, so I'm a little surprised by that. I can't really kill Harden. There's a lot to kill Harden about. Don't get me wrong, but typically he does like to play. So I thought he'd play through the broken bone, but I guess somebody convinced him otherwise. So that takes all the intrigue out of this game. There's another one in the NBA. A game you're kind of looking forward to. Mitchell's out. You're not looking forward to it. Harden's out, and now you'd have to pay me to watch.
Yeah, right. You probably saw this coming, but are you disappointed in the Lakers? They're laying 3.5 tomorrow in Golden State, and they lost to, it was Allen Gillespie who beat them last night after blowing the lead.
Yeah, guys, I think this was a little predictable. I know that's easy for me to say, but if you were paying attention earlier in the year, and I know everybody claims, they win all these close games, the clutch bone.
Yep.
And the one thing about the clutch bone is that's also luck. That's a lot of luck. They were always due to regress. If you looked at their offensive, defensive, and overall net rating, like they were very fortunate to have the record they have. They're another team that has two really good offensive players that can't defend, in Luka Doncic and LeBron James. And obviously it's not working right now with Luka and LeBron. And at least there's a little clarity for the Lakers. There's no way you could bring back LeBron. If you look at the net rating of the Lakers when Luka's on the floor with Reeves, it's very good. When he's on the floor with LeBron, it's a disaster. The writing's on the wall. LeBron's out.
Yep. Tom, great catching up and talking NBA with you. Thanks for the time as always. Best of luck tonight and this weekend. We appreciate it.
Anytime, guys. Thank you.
Follow him on X at Tom Byrne, Progressive Guest Line. Been on this network hosting, guesting several times, Mad Dog Sports Radio as well. So that's some news anyway. No Harden tonight. Number up to 8.5. All right. We're going to get to, we'll recap our bets from last night. Don't you hate it when it's so close to being a monster and then it turns out to be a losing night? We'll do that and tell you what we've added for the bets tonight and this weekend coming up next.